Activision might be wondering how a game with no lasers or exo-suits nobody fucking asked for actually succeeds, but Battlefield 1 executes just that, at the front lines of the war to end all wars, and that war ended nothing. Such is the message DICE seeks to convey through what is arguably the most gripping FPS single-player mode since the early Call of Duties, which is where we will start off at. It seems like lately all the big FPS developers haven't been giving single-player much love, instead opting to commit solely on multiplayer. However, it's obvious that's not what DICE wanted to do here, and in my opinion, that decision paid off in full. You don't have a single linear storyline to play through, but instead can pick from various different fronts and storylines from across the war. From the shores of Gallipoli to the Italian Alps, attached to multiple different companies and battalions depending on your chosen storyline. And the thing that DICE did differently with its solo player, aside from giving us the option to pick through multiple different campaigns to play, was that it showcases a side of war few games or movies or any sort of media rarely dares to venture. The human aspect of it all. You are never part of some invincible battalion that is immune from taking casualties save for a few random unnamed NPCs with no dialogue, that is incapable of failure. You play as a human being, capable of being both a coward and or a hero, and that human aspect is one we don't get to see all that often. Even the big victories that you do win don't seem to be so glorious in the grand scheme of it all, when you consider what you lost and the morality of it all. The only problem with Battlefield 1's storylines is that there's not enough of them. Each one of the fronts and campaigns you play through can be completed in about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours for the longer campaigns, but there's only 5 of them anyway, including the prologue. So don't expect anything longer than 8 hours worth of gameplay in total if you really take your time. Furthermore, gameplay within French and Russian regiments is notably absent. However, it seems very probable that this could be a setup for more single-player campaign DLCs. Also, what I draw up to be a missed opportunity within the campaign is failing to represent any of the Central Powers as a playable side. This game is all about emphasizing the human aspect of the war, the overall moral grayness of it all. Allowing us to see the war from the lens of the losing side would have assisted DICE in conveying that tone. Perhaps DICE had that in their pocket for DLC as well, but that doesn't mean they should get off the hook for it. But campaign aside, the real draw of any Battlefield game is its multiplayer, and it stays true to the common Battlefield formula of sticking to your precious flags. Your kit selection is still the same, assault, support, recon, all still there with a couple of tweaks and modifications that you'll find along the way. Vehicles have significantly changed, some for better, others for worse. Dogfights and flight, in my opinion, have dramatically improved for the better. However, I prefer the tanks and ground transports of previous installments, with the notable exception of cavalry, which is utterly fantastic, to their World War I counterparts. The lack of helicopters and gunships and guided missiles, combined with the interesting map designs, encourages an enhanced flow of gameplay matches. In fact, if you just decide to sit in the respawn screen and watch the map flow, you'll notice as your team begins to charge or braces for an opposing one. Just viewing these impromptu formations and battle lines that the map encourages is quite a spectacle, and considering it's organized with little coordination between team members, makes it even more of a feat for DICE to pull off. It's a far cry from the running around like a chicken with no head flow that we see in modern Call of Duties, and it's very refreshing. Being part of these large-scale multiplayer battles is as exhilarating as ever, and the weapon selection is just as boastful as ever before. However, there's no longer any of these one-size-fits-all gameplay styles, or Swiss Army knife weapons that we've seen in previous games. If you use the Assault class, you are only going to find success at close ranges, and have virtually no hope in hell of hitting anything at medium to long distances, due to a large bullet spread and short magazine sizes. However, you will melt the people unfortunate enough to encounter you in close ranges, unless they too have an assault class, in which case things get very interesting. Similar tales can be told about any other weapon class in the game. Snipers, purely effective at a distance, and the support tier's machine guns are best adopted to a more campy style of play. However, they are easily the closest sort of weapons to brag of any sense of versatility. This increased level of weapon situationalism forces you to play a bit smarter. Perhaps you need to communicate with more players or play a bit more conservatively or aggressively. However, you can't just Rambo throughout the map anymore like you can in other games. Call of Duty. Levolution is still present, and has received an obvious overhaul, now applying to the terrain as well as buildings. So say a tank shell or artillery piece hits the ground, it forms a crater of sorts within the dirt that can be used as cover. Dynamic weather also makes another appearance in Battlefield, introducing some sort of unique weather effect, or effects that can come into play on all maps. And without NVGs or IR scopes to compensate, weather's effects is a hell of a lot bigger than it would be in any other war period. Fog and sandstorms reduce visibility to but a few feet, making snipers nearly irrelevant. Pouring rain has the opposite effect, making it harder to notice players prone in the mist, giving snipers the perfect cover to operate from. It can change the entire tone of a game in an instant, and that's a theme DICE really shoots for with Battlefield 1. If a team is losing badly enough in a game, they can receive support from a massive train or zeppelin or dreadnought ship to help them out with it, ensuring that they at least have a fighting chance to recover from their deficit and keeping the game interesting for the winning side. These are all interesting development choices that have obviously garnered a little bit of criticism and controversy, but I ultimately believe they are for the better and improve the game as a whole. Of course, old ales have come back to haunt Battlefield 1 as well. Spawning seems to have actually worsened in that more often than ever it seems like you'll find yourself dying straight off of spawn, especially when you choose to spawn off a squad mate. Of course, this is likely due to increased action on the ground in comparison to previous games, but it's still pretty damn annoying. The current servers are as laggy as ever. Playing to the tune of rubber bands will be a consistent problem. Of course, as I was playing the game, it hadn't even come out yet and was already pushing over 200,000 players. And we have every reason to expect that number will increase within the first couple of weeks at launch, so don't expect lag to improve drastically anytime soon. But as a whole, vehicle and weapon diversity, improved levolution, new weather effects, and enhanced map flow altogether make Battlefield 1 a solid sequel and solid addition into the Battlefield franchise that proves it is in fact possible for a mainstream FPS to succeed without all the unnecessary weapons of the future and jetpacks, something that's long overdue. It polishes a solo player campaign that is often ever so neglected by other developers, and while it has its faults, the successes of Battlefield 1, in my opinion, do in fact make up for them. Now, while I do strongly recommend this game, I am very weary of calling it a 10 out of 10 or a masterpiece like some other reviewing websites and YouTubers have already. And that's because we could still be within that honeymoon phase, or maybe some problems and quirks with the game that we haven't noticed just yet. And while I was personally very careful to put as much time into every aspect of this game as possible before I reviewed it, I would hate for that honeymoon phase to rub off on this video as well and influence someone's opinion. So if you're still very much on the fence about this game and you're not really sure if you should buy it, perhaps it would be in your best interest to maybe wait a week or two and see what reviewers and critics are saying after that. Ask your friends. By then that honeymoon phase will have died down a bit, and you'll be able to get a more accurate, unbiased review of the game. And while I don't believe I'm personally blinded by the honeymoon phase anymore at this point, do still be skeptical of myself as well. Personally, I give this game about an 8 out of 10. I've had a lot of fun with it and can see myself having a lot more fun with it down the line. It seems like a Battlefield game that's got a lot of longevity, much like Battlefield 1, just not without as many start and launch problems. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please feel free to leave a like down below, dislike if you did not, and I hope to see you all in my next video. Peace out everybody.